Biden's being threatened in Ohio to not be on the presidential ballot in 2024? That and more.
I don't need recognition. I'm on a mission. I'm paying dues. I'm in position. I'm staying up. It's getting late. You're doing good. I'm doing great. Recognition. I'm on a mission. I'm paying dues. I'm in position. I'm staying up. It's getting late. You're doing good. I'm doing great.
Welcome to the first episode of Political Palette. It is Friday, May 24th of 2024. I'm your host, Matty. Welcome. We have an exciting show for you today. I want to give you a little bit about myself. So, my name is Matty. I'm 19 years old. I grew up here in Pennsylvania, a beautiful state, the Great American Getaway, as our governor calls it now. But I'm very much a free agent, as you would call it. I really believe in democracy. I believe in American value. I believe in all of that stuff. But I also believe that we should not be electing people who want to take those freedoms away from us. And, you know, something I've been telling a lot of family and friends is the notion that freedom is for thee, but not for me. Right? And basically what that means is, like, if you disagree with something, let's remove it. But that's not really freedom, is it? Freedom is everything being allowed, whether you disagree with it or not, because everybody has different opinions. I mean, I'd like to go into a small subject here. And let's talk a little bit about this, okay? I mean, in recent months, Florida has taken significant steps to remove books that feature LGBT themes. Yeah, that's right. They removed books that feature LGBT themes from school curriculums and public libraries. Proponents of these bans argue that such books are inappropriate for young readers and do not align with their values. However, I strongly disagree with this approach. Here's why. First and foremost, the freedom to read is a fundamental right. It's not up to the state to decide what is and what isn't appropriate for individuals to read. The decision of whether or not to read a book should lie with the reader, or in the case of minors, their parents. By banning LGBT books, the state is effectively censoring diverse voices and perspectives, which is detrimental to the principles of free expression and intellectual freedom. That's right. This is happening in America, in our soil. We're supposed to be the land of the free. Well, is this free? These books are more than just stories. They're reflections of the diverse world that we live in. They provide representation for LGBT youth who might feel isolated or misunderstood. Seeing themselves in the pages of a book can be incredibly empowering and validating. It's a reminder that they are not alone and that their experiences and identities are valid. Moreover, exposure to diverse perspectives fosters empathy and understanding. When children and young adults read about lives and experiences different from their own, it broadens their horizons and promotes inclusivity. Banning these books sends the opposite message. It promotes intolerance and ignorance. And while we're at it, we could talk a little bit about censorship. So today it's LGBT books. Tomorrow it could be books about other marginalized communities. Censorship is a dangerous path that erodes the very fabric of our democratic society. We must stand against it, not just for the sake of the LGBT community, but for the preservation of our fundamental freedoms. In conclusion, the decision to read or to not read a book should be a personal one, not dictated by the state. Banning LGBT books is a form of censorship that denies individuals the opportunity to learn, grow, and empathize with others. We must advocate for the freedom to read and resist efforts to silence diverse voices. That's my intro for today, but I would like to zoom in a little bit on our good old 2024 presidential elections. In the unfolding drama of the 2024 presidential election, a significant issue has arisen concerning President Joe Biden's ability to appear on Ohio's general election ballot. This chapter delves into the legislative and procedural hurdles that have led to his unprecedented situation, exploring the key players, the legal intricacies, and the potential solutions. The crux of the issue lies in Ohio's statutory requirements for presidential candidate certification. Ohio law mandates that presidential candidates be certified 90 days before the general election, setting the deadline at August 7th of 2024. However, the Democratic National Convention, DNC, where Biden is expected to be formally nominated, is scheduled for August 19th through the 22nd, well past Ohio's certification deadline. The conflict was brought to light when Ohio Secretary of State Frank LaRose, a Republican, notified the Ohio Democratic Party in early April. LaRose's office emphasized that without either moving the DNC dates or legislative intervention to change the certification deadline, Biden's name could legally be excluded from the ballot. Efforts to resolve this conflict have been met with potential roadblocks. Democratic lawmakers have proposed a legislative fix to extend or waive the certification deadline for this election cycle. However, these efforts have been stalled in Ohio's Republican-controlled legislature, reflecting broader partisan tensions. In past instances, such as in 2019, Ohio legislators successfully passed a one-time change to accommodate later convention dates, reducing the pre-election certification deadline from 90 to 60 days. Despite this precedent, current legislative efforts have faced significant resistance, with key Republican figures expressing reluctance to amend the law. Should the legislative impasse continue, two primary outcomes are possible. The Democratic Party could attempt to move up its convention dates, a logistically challenging and potentially politically fraught opinion. Alternatively, the absence of a legislative fix would mean that Biden's exclusion from the Ohio ballot a significant blow, given Ohio's status as a pivotal swing state in presidential elections. The Biden campaign remains optimistic, with spokespersons asserting confidence that the issue will be resolved and Biden will appear on the ballot in all 50 states. Nonetheless, the situation underscores the complexities and contentious nature of election law, particularly in battleground states where procedural nuances can have substantial electoral consequences. The Biden ballot dilemma in Ohio highlights the intricate interplay between state election laws and national party politics. As the deadline approaches, the resolution of this issue will require either a strategic shift in the DNC's scheduling or a rare moment of bipartisan legislative cooperation. Regardless of the outcome, this scenario offers a revealing glimpse into the often unseen legal and procedural battles that underpin American democracy. Now let's put this all into perspective, because as we know, historically, Ohio has been a battleground state, playing a pivotal role in presidential elections. In 2020, Biden lost Ohio to Trump, but the stakes are very high for 2024. The potential exclusion of Biden from the ballot isn't just a legal hiccup, it's a strategic disadvantage that could influence the overall election outcome. What we're seeing here is a play on the larger political dynamics. On one hand, there's a legal framework that aims to ensure timely and orderly elections, but on the other hand, there's a partisan divide that can exploit these frameworks to gain electoral advantages. This isn't just the first time Ohio has faced such a dilemma. Yeah, back in 2019, they adjusted the law to accommodate later conventions, so why not now? This situation raises critical questions about fairness and democratic integrity. Is it fair to let procedural technicalities potentially disenfranchise voters? Shouldn't there be a bipartisan effort to ensure all major candidates are on the ballot, giving voters a full range of choices? For me as a progressive, this isn't just about supporting Biden, it's about upholding the principles of democracy. Every eligible candidate should have the opportunity to be on the ballot, and every voter should have the chance to vote for their preferred candidate. This is a foundational process to our democracy. If Ohio lawmakers can't find a way to resolve this, it sets a worrying precedent. We can't let political gamesmanship override the will of the people. This is a call of action for voters and lawmakers alike. I'd be very interested to hear your opinion on this subject. You can go ahead and send in your voice note up to 90 seconds for free at speakpipe.com/politicalpalette. Or you can go directly to our website, politicalpalette.show, and you can find the link that says send a voice note on the header of the page. I'm really curious about this subject, and I want to know, how does this affect American democracy as we know it? Are states going to start going against each other to block political candidates that they don't like or that they don't see fit in office? It should be up to the voters. It should be up to them to choose who they want in office. It shouldn't be up to the states to decide who you vote for and who you don't vote for. That is not democracy. And I'm tired of people allowing this and saying, this is a great thing. Like, people who love Trump, they're going to say, wow, yes, let's not have Biden on the ballot. Is that really freedom, though? I don't think so. And same thing on the left. They do the same thing. They want to ban Trump on the ballot in 3 states simply because of the Insurrectionist Act, because of January 6th. Now, we can all admit January 6th was a horrible tragedy on American democracy. But that does not mean that that Trump should be completely expulsed from the whole ballot and not be able to have people's voices heard. We're in America, and really, I don't know what's happening, but people are really going against each other in all different ways, and lawmakers going together and doing this and doing that and trying to ban political candidates from the ballot, and even people like RFK Jr. Put him on the ballot. I would like to see him on a ballot. Even though I wouldn't vote for the guy, I still want to see him on the ballot so that people's voices could be heard. I want politicians to be able to be on the ballot, as many as you'd like, because that's just democracy. That's people being able to choose who they truly want. And in a world of poison politics, as I call it, it's pretty insane out there how both of these parties will kind of just collide against each other and be very, very hypocritical at times, because a lot of people say, well, the Republican Party's so different and the Democrat Party's so different. Yeah, they're different, but they're both doing the same thing at the end of the day. They're both manipulating and dividing, and as long as they can continue to manipulate and divide, this will never end. Let's start with the Democrats, okay? One of the biggest criticisms leveled at them is their stance on big money in politics. Many Democratic leaders have decried the influence of wealthy donors and corporate interest, championing the need for campaign finance reform and speaking against the Citizens United decision. Yet many prominent Democrats continue to accept large donations from corporate PACs and wealthy individuals. This discrepancy between their rhetoric and their actions undermines their credibility and raises serious questions about their commitment to genuine reform. Another point of hypocrisy is the realm of environmental policy. Democrats often position themselves as the party of climate action, advocating for renewable energy and stricter environmental regulations. However, some of the same politicians supporting these policies have significant investments in fossil fuel companies or have approved environmentally harmful projects like pipelines. This disconnect between their public stance and personal financial interests or political actions is a clear example of the hypocrisy that we as progressives must not ignore. Now let's turn our attention to the Republicans. A major area of hypocrisy for them is their stance on government intervention. Republicans frequently champion the idea of limited government, arguing against federal overreach and advocating for states' rights. Yet when it comes to issues like reproductive rights, marriage equality, or drug policy, many Republicans are quick to support federal laws that impose restrictions on these freedoms. Overriding state decisions, this inconsistency reveals a selective approach to the principle of limited government, often at the expense of individual freedoms and rights. Another glaring example is fiscal responsibility. Republicans often criticize Democrats for excessive government spending and the growing national debt, advocating for balanced budgets and reducing government expenditures. However, when in power, Republicans have also overseen significant increases in the national debt through tax cuts for the wealthy and increased military spending, without corresponding cuts in other areas. This disparity between their fiscal rhetoric and actual policies highlight a significant hypocrisy that prioritizes the interests of the rich over the needs of many. It's essential to recognize these hypocrisies because they erode public trust in our political system. When politicians say one thing and do another, it fuels cynicism and disengagement among voters. As progressives, we must hold our leaders accountable regardless of their party affiliation. Hypocrisy in politics is not just about broken promises, it's about the integrity of our democratic process and our fight for a more just and equitable society. Now, you know how our boy Donald J. Trump said that he wants to drain the swamp, quote unquote. Well, Donald Trump campaigned on a promise to rid Washington of corruption and special interest. He portrayed himself as an outsider who would clean up the political establishment. Yet once in office, Trump filled his administration with lobbyists, corporate executives, and political insiders. It seems like he brought the alligators directly into the White House lawn and directly into the building. This not only contradicted his campaign rhetoric, but also entrenched the very corruption he vowed to eliminate. Another major point of hypocrisy was the administration's stance on fiscal responsibility. Republicans, including Trump, often criticized previous administrations for increasing the national debt. However, under Trump's watch, the national debt ballooned by nearly $7.8 trillion. This was largely due to massive tax cuts for the wealthy and increased military spending, without corresponding cuts elsewhere. The administration's fiscal policies favored the rich and powerful, starkly contrasting their claims of prioritizing ordinary Americans. But let's also examine Trump's approach to law and order. Throughout his presidency, Trump touted himself as the candidate of law and order, advocating for strict enforcement and harsh penalties. Yet his administration was plagued by legal scandals and criminal indictments. Close associates, including campaign advisors and cabinet members, were convicted of crimes ranging from tax evasion to lying to federal investigators. Trump's own actions, including attempts to obstruct justice as detailed in the Mueller report, further highlighted this hypocrisy. On foreign policy, Trump often criticized his predecessors for engaging in endless wars and promised to bring American troops home. While there were some troop withdrawals, the administration also increased drone strikes and military engagements in several regions, often with little transparency. This continuation and, in some cases, escalation of military interventions contradicted his anti-war rhetoric. But let's also address the administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Trump repeatedly downplayed the severity of the virus, contradicted public health experts, and promoted unproven treatments. Despite claiming to prioritize the health and safety of Americans, these actions contributed to a delayed and fragmented response, resulting in significant loss of life and economic hardship. The disconnect between the administration's public statements and their actions during the crisis is perhaps the most stark example of hypocrisy. It's essential to recognize these hypocrisies because they reveal a pattern of saying one thing and doing another, eroding public trust in leadership. And we have to hold our leaders accountable and demand integrity and consistency from those in power. The Trump administration's track record is rife with contradictions and double standards. From promises to drain the swamp to mishandling a global pandemic, these hypocrisies highlight the importance of transparency and accountability in governance. If you want to talk about a little bit of positivity here at the show, which I would like to, because this sounds crazy, and I don't think we'd want another 4 years of that. But I mean, I certainly don't want more alligators in the White House. I don't know about you, but I think we should shift gears and talk about some of the positive changes we're seeing under the Biden administration. President Biden has taken significant steps to address many of the issues left unaddressed by his predecessor. One of the standout achievements is the administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Through a combination of mass vaccination campaigns, increased testing, and direct support to individuals and businesses, the Biden administration has made considerable progress in managing the crisis. Additionally, the Biden administration has made strides in environmental policy. Rejoining the Paris Agreement was a crucial step in reaffirming the United States' commitment to combating climate change, and the administration has also introduced ambitious plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But on social justice issues, which is something I care about, I have this nonprofit. It's called Empower United. You could check it out, empowerunited.org. We help LGBTQIA plus individuals with a bunch of legal hurdles they might face. They get their freedom taken away and their ability to express themselves openly taken away due to the laws in some of these states. Biden has been advocating for these things. He's been advocating for LGBTQ plus rights. He's been advocating for police reform, supporting voting rights legislation. And the administration has shown a commitment to creating a more equitable society. The appointment of diverse individuals to key positions in government further underscores this commitment. And the administration's focus on infrastructure with the bipartisan infrastructure deal promises to bring much-needed improvements to the nation's roads, bridges, and public transport systems. This not only creates jobs, but also modernizes our infrastructure to meet the demands of the 21st century. A lot of people actually don't really talk about the infrastructure bill as much as I feel like they should be, but that bill brings hundreds of thousands of jobs here to our turf. It helps economies in some of the smallest cities and the biggest cities in the United States. And it actually helps cities like mine, which aren't even that big. It's like medium sized. It helps our economy. It helps bring more businesses. It helps bring in more jobs and benefits. And it encourages people to move into the city and migrate over. And it's unprecedented right now how much we are actually fighting against China in terms of the trade war and ensuring that American jobs stay here on American soil. Because we've been doing incredible strides lately to ensure that all the materials that are used in these new projects are here in America. And we're doing incredible things to ensure that our economy is going to get the biggest boost from the infrastructure bill. Now, in future episodes, I'd like to bring on some people to talk a little bit about the infrastructure bill, because I think it's a huge bill that we need to really dive into like every section of. But I will say this, the bill is an incredible thing for America, and I think a lot of people don't think about the actual impacts of that bill. Now, time for the segment of the show that I think is going to be pretty funny. I haven't actually named it anything yet, but it's a little comedic, and I think you'll like it. So, let's begin, I guess. I actually look forward to this little segment, but as the 2024 presidential race is heating up, it's like watching a reality TV show, except the stakes are way higher, and there are fewer catfights. Barely. According to the latest polls, Trump is leading Biden in several key states. According to Real Clear Polling and 270towin.com. Wow, what a website name. It's like a sequel nobody asked for. Yet here we are, popcorn in hand, and waiting for the plot twists and also our democracy on the line here. But speaking of plot twists, have you heard about Trump's recent campaign stop in the Bronx? Yeah, you heard it right. The Bronx. Trump's campaign is trying to make inroads with black and Hispanic voters. It's like trying to sell snow to an Eskimo. But hey, give him points for effort. Meanwhile, Biden's team is dealing with a bit of a cold shoulder from the New York Times. Apparently, the Times thinks that the White House is acting entitled, while Biden's folks think that the Times isn't being realistic. It's like watching two high school friends fight over who gets the cool table at lunch. And let's not forget about the drama in Florida, where Trump is basically holding court as the unofficial king of the GOP. And the state's Republicans are firmly in his corner, proving once again that Florida is America's wacky political theme park. But on a more serious note, Biden is staying out of the Alito controversy with the kind of caution you'd use when approaching a sleeping bear. Progressives are fuming, but Biden's team is playing it safe, probably thinking, why poke a bear if you don't have to? If only I had a live studio audience, guys. It's just me, for today at least. But the Biden administration is gearing up for a major showdown on climate policy. Just in time for the campaign season, it's like they're trying to win over the green voters by finally doing something green. Yeah, I mean, come on, you could do a lot more than that. I mean, what have you been doing? Literally like, oh, here's a solar panel. Like, come on, we gotta do more. And I don't know. I'm just saying. But let's get into international politics here. So Biden managed to secure a promise from Egypt to reopen critical aid routes to Gaza, showing that sometimes a phone call can achieve more than 1,000 tweets. Yeah, that's right. I mean, hey, if you're listening, Mr. Trump, yeah, you might want to get off True Social for a little bit. Maybe go golfing, do something fun. Wait, you're not free on Wednesdays. You go to court because you're being indicted. And remember, if you'd like to talk a little bit about what your opinion is, I'd love to hear your opinion. I'll play it right here on the show. All you have to go to is speakpipe.com/politicalpalette or go to politicalpalette.show in your web browser and go ahead and click on the header. It says send a voice note, and you'll be prompted with the link, and you just hit record now, and that's it. Up to 90 seconds. Make sure to include your name and where you're from, and I might play it on the show here. And hey, I'd like to hear all different perspectives: Republican, Democrat, Independent, progressives. What's a party? There's a lot of parties out there, right? But we know that only two of them have dominance, and sadly it's Republicans and Democrats. But hey, you win some to lose some, right? So, wow, that segment would have been a lot better if I had people here. But I'm hoping next week on the show I get to bring on some special guests. We get to interview a little bit, get to talk about some different perspectives, kind of get their take and stuff. We're still, refining this show, making it better, making it actually good. I mean, hey, if you liked it though, go ahead, leave a review. I believe on the Spotify app you could just hit 5 stars. I'm sure other apps have reviews you can write. But let me know what you think. I'd like to know how I can improve. And there's also a link in the episode description where you could go ahead and check out precisely how to basically answer a survey to let me know, like, hey, I like the show, it's this, it's that, just let me know, and I'd be happy to read it. Anyways, thanks for listening to the first episode of Political Palette. I've been Matty, your host for today. I'll see you.